You're listening to How I See It, hosted by Han. You guessed it, that's me. I am here to motivate and inspire you with guests from all different industries and backgrounds. So get ready for personal stories of success, of growth, full of highs and lows, and of course, unapologetic realness. This is How I See It. Okay, you guys, I am so excited. I have Helen Denham here today. She is a woman's mentor and coach. Her big focus is, which she'll get into today, on helping creatives have breakthroughs, pursuing healing. She's also the host of the Lifted podcast, and one of my followers actually recommended Helen for the podcast, so I'm super excited to have her here. Welcome.
I'm so happy to be here. It's so nice to break the fourth wall and meet people in person. So
I know. It is so funny in this day, you'll talk to people online and then you feel like you know them, and then you meet in person and you're like, oh my God, I just realized that we have never met in person.
I know. I feel like I'm prioritizing that more and more these days, of making eye contact, being able to hug somebody and really just feel into people's energy. So
yeah, I feel like whenever I have someone on that's in the healing space, the mental health space, the wellness space, my first question is always just take me back. How did you get into this world? What was kind of your own healing journey, and what did it look like?
So I grew up in a little town called Arundel, Maine, which is right next to Kennebunkport, Maine, which is kind of a little touristy beach town. And I grew up, I feel like I should say it's like a refined wild child. We grew up in a beautiful neighborhood, but we were always encouraged to be barefoot, running outside, playing in nature. Nature was a huge focal point of my family, and it was really important to be camping and getting outside and just being integrated in that way. So I feel really grateful to have had that background, because now such a big part of my life is the outdoors, and the way I recharge a lot is going on solo camping trips and things like that. And especially being in New York City now and city living a lot of the time, it just gives me this sense of freedom that I feel comfortable and at home in nature and in the woods. So I think that's an integral part of my character. When I was a kid, though, I really struggled with depression from a super young age. 8 years old, I was on antidepressants.
Wow.
From 8 to 16. And it's still a part of my journey that I'm kind of unpacking. I've kind of come to this belief that it's part of my karmic journey. It's part of my karmic path. And so I have a deep sense of gratitude for it, because it's actually led me to mentorship now. And all of these healing modalities I teach are the ways in which I healed myself after I got off medication, which was around right before I went to college. I got off medication.
Was it just because you felt like you just wanted to?
So my mom and I had both been on prescription, and there was this kind of story in my family that depression just ran in the family, and that the women on my mom's side especially had depression. So it was kind of this story that was just be prepared, you're going to have a hard life. It was this kind of epigenetic thing, this belief that was passed down.
And also vocally too, spoken over you as well. And I'm sure not maliciously, just kind of this is the way it goes.
Exactly. It was not malicious at all. It was kind and protective. And I think this is what happens with generation to generation, generational healing. We start to recognize these kind of curses, if you will, that are placed on us accidentally, or to no fault of my parents. They were just doing the best that they could, as we hear that a lot. People say that, but it's true. And my mom and I had this realization kind of together, let's do this, because she was also on medication. So we did it together. And she had been through a huge spiritual awakening and journey, and my parents had gotten divorced. So it kind of she went through a whole tailspin. And when I got off of it, it wasn't all rainbows and sunshine, for sure. It brought up a lot of shadow stuff, because when I was on medication, I was quite numb. I wasn't really aware of my emotional states. I couldn't label things very well. It was just all kind of hazy. I still have trouble even remembering what life kind of was like at that time. So when I got off of it, everything just started screaming to the forefront. And it was both. It was ecstasy, and I could feel the beauty of life, and I could feel how intense life was.
The highs and lows.
Exactly. I'm a very sensitive, I'm a very emotional person. So that led into real struggles with disordered eating and control, and trying to control what I could control in an obsessive way. And when I was in college, I went to study music and business. I was pursuing music. And I got scouted to model my sophomore year, and I also got picked up by management for music that year.
Wow.
And I just remember, it was a classic, I was in Union Square busking or something, and this agent walked up and said, do you want to model? And it was one of those moments. And I was like, oh yeah, very exciting. But then the next day I get a call and said, we're going to take your headshots, you're going to go on Go-Sees, and we need you to lose 10 pounds before, Fashion Week hits, which was very close. And I didn't know anything about nutrition at the time. Plus I had no idea how to handle eating in college yet. I was exposed to all of this junk junk food and I was like crazy and all these things. So I didn't know what to do except for to starve myself and to purge. And I just couldn't figure out how to do it healthy. And I just thought that was a given in the industry, that like this was this big secret that all models or anybody who was thin was hurting themselves. I just thought this is my job. Like this is the sacrifice that you make to be in this industry.
You can't control anything, because I'm very similar. Like I have had such a struggle with body image and not eating, and then also like binging. It's a mess. And to your point, I think up until recently, I didn't realize that it was this like huge form of control, but it's not conscious. And I think that if you're carrying that and then you get this job, you're like, okay, cool, they coincide. Like the way I've been coping is actually just what I had to do anyway.
And I would find that food is so primal. It's a sense of comfort, and it should be, and so I felt like I had no real sense of comfort either, like like my nourishment was all messed up. So I had to take a long time to repair my relationship with food. I remember Christmas hit, I went home, and my stepmom and my dad were just like, we need to have a conversation here. They basically had an intervention, and they were like, you have a choice here and you don't have to do this. And they just held me with so much love and acceptance. They didn't judge me. It's extremely shameful to talk about this. And when you're first starting to talk about it, it took me a very long time to even be able to speak on a podcast about this, because it's so intimate, like how we treat our bodies and what we see in the mirror. So to have them just accept me and tell me it's going to be okay and we're here for you no matter what, and just give me the opt-out, like, why is it that you want to do this? What's your deeper meaning behind this, and why? And I realized, I just love creativity. I love to make art. I love beauty. Like I love all these things. And I realized I didn't have to be a model to do that. Like I could, to collaborate with people and take photos. So I started to do that. I started to take my power back in that way and reach out to photographers I wanted to work with and do my own shoots for my singles or whatever. And it was so empowering and exciting. And I just quit pretty much then and there. I was like, this is just I can't go into that suffering cave. Like it's like a no go. So I just quit. My manager at the time had become my best friend, Jay. He actually took his own life that year as well. So it was my first experience with intense death and grief and passing. And it shot me into definitely a spiritual awakening at that time. I started to use psychedelics and mushrooms and LSD. And I always say approach this with consciousness, and it's not a play toy. I don't like to think about taking psychedelics like, for a party thing. To each their own. But for me, I took it really seriously, and it was a huge part of overcoming my depression, my eating disorders, everything, and healing from the grief, because it introduced me to the unified field. And I started to have these really transcendent experiences that became like cellular memories to me. It didn't feel like, taking a hit of cocaine and like partying. It was like, this is a experience I'm having. I went through a breakup at one point, a couple years out of school, and I was like, I need to kind of find myself, heal from this breakup, whatever. I flew off to Thailand and spent like a month and a half out between Chiang Mai and Pai, a lot of time between monasteries and just absorbing the beauty of culture. And it was one of my first big solo trips with packing a punch and having meaning and being really independent.
And at this point, were you still pursuing like mushrooms, psychedelics, LSD, all of that stuff?
Once in a while, but I kind of got it out of my system. Like it was this chapter where I actually feel like I took it a little bit too far in college, because I was like a couple times a week I was like doing LSD. Like I was kind of living, I was not grounded. I had gone on to a part of the spectrum that was like too intense.
No, I love that you're bringing this up. I think with anything, whether it's like LSD or mushrooms or weed or even therapy or intellectualizing, like metaphorical modalities of healing, like we almost can get caught up in that and not actually integrate into our lives. Like we almost use it as like a coping thing. I mean, for me even, I was for sure weed. I was like smoking weed all through college, all kind of after, just so I didn't feel like my suicidal thoughts come on. And I was like, I'm good. Like I'm smoking weed. I feel okay. But really I was numb.
I think what's happening is we just outsource our power to something, or we numb, like you're saying. And I definitely felt the same way. So I realized, I had just barely scraped by graduating, and I was like, is this really serving me anymore? I feel like I just didn't need to use it so much anymore. Like, it had served its purpose. And so now when I do it I probably do mushrooms once a year, and I do it alone, and I do it in a pretty intense container and really consciously to see. So I started to work with this meditation studio called Inscape that isn't open anymore, but loved that space. It closed down in the pandemic, but I was facilitating meditation for the first time, and it was kind of like monk training. The facilitators in the beginning there weren't actually teaching the meditations. It would come over the loudspeakers. So we would be sitting in meditation with the group, just kind of holding space for them, make sure everyone was okay. We were kind of babysitting the meditation class, but it was like monk training because I'd be sitting in meditation for 5 hours a day. And I started to just have this big kind of third eye opening. And I was really starting to get visuals coming in. I was starting to feel an attunement to spirit that was very felt and tangible and visceral. And I feel like all of the knowledge I was acquiring was starting to become wisdom. Like it was starting to live in my body.
Like you felt like more aligned as well, I'm assuming. Because have you always been into meditation and like wellness, or is it something you found on your trip?
I kind of discredit sometimes how integral it was from an early age, actually, because my mom was always doing yoga and going to like Kripalu Yoga Center, and she had us like listening to The Secret when it first came out, when this was all kind of like wacky, but that was a thing like at the time. But I hadn't really been pursuing it seriously until college, when I got introduced to EFT tapping as well, which I kind of skipped over. But EFT tapping and lucid dreaming and astral projection I was getting really into. And
can you please break down EFT tapping?
Yeah.
EFT tapping, right? For people who have never heard of it. I've heard of it, never done it, want to. Can you for dummies?
Of course. So EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. Even that I feel like has a lot of charge. Emotional freedom, when you really think about it, that's what's
powerful.
Happening. It's really powerful. So EFT focuses on like 7 to 9 different meridian points. I have like a method that I call EFT Plus because I like to use the chakras as well. I think it's important to integrate that. And so I integrate the heart chakra, the solar plexus, and the sacral chakra as well, and even sometimes tap on the knees that have some points on it. But what you're doing is you're literally like tapping on different points of your face, especially, and your upper body as you're moving through positive psychology. So I'll give you a little taste of it. Basically, you would identify a problem that you're having, because in each EFT tapping session, you tackle a problem. So maybe you're struggling with self-sabotage, for example. That seems to really resonate with people. Like, why can't I get the ball rolling? Or I tend to procrastinate, or I self-sabotage in some way. So you would kind of start with, even though I tend to self-sabotage, I deeply and completely love, honor, and accept myself. And then you work through, well, okay, in the past, I've really struggled with procrastination, and that tends to come from perfectionism, and that tends to come from trying to control my circumstances. And even though that's the case, I'm choosing to move forward with optimism. I'm choosing to know that I'm in control of my life right now, and my willpower is really strong, and I have a deep why. So you can kind of go through this, but you really want to get familiar with what exactly is the issue, where is it coming from, bringing love and light into that place, and clearing any shame around it, and then moving into, okay, well, here's what I'm going to pack in instead, which is I love and accept myself, and here's what I'm looking forward to, and this is the reality I'm actively creating. And there's something about the somatics of that, as you're physically tapping on yourself and speaking at the same time. There's some kind of marriage there is happening where we actually start to see your neurologies change.
Wow.
I hope I'm saying that right.
No,
neurology.
you are. Well, I think it's like affirmations on crack, because I talk all the time about how affirmations, as cliche as people think, like really helped me rewire my thoughts every single day, like rewriting like every negative thought that popped up. And I think this sounds even more so because you're tapping and integrating that piece.
Totally. It started like in the 70s. A kinesiologist was working with this woman who had this absolute like paranoia around water and drowning.
Wow.
Like she like couldn't go near water. And so they were kind of muscle testing with her, and they were like tapping on different parts of the body, and they started tapping on her face and walking through like, you're safe around water, and here's what the past has told you about water, and it's okay and it's safe. And it was a form of rapid healing for her. EFT tapping completely cleared that paranoia for her. So over the years, it started to get refined. EFT started with like 200 tapping points, which is like too many for the typical person. Okay, so like narrow it down to 7 to 9. I don't think there's really any wrong way to do it. I get a lot of comments on my EFT videos, like, it's like, am I doing this the right way? Or like, what's the perfect format for it? And it's like, it's great to have a format, but like you can literally just be doing this in the mirror as you do your affirmations in the morning and touching yourself and marrying that together.
So it sounds like wellness has been a part of your life from young age through, even in the ups and downs of your own healing.
Yeah, I think so, for sure. It's definitely been more like spiritual fascination with kind of the ether and what happens when we die. I've always been fascinated with that. Near-death experiences I got obsessed with. So wellness to me feels like really taking care of your body, your mind, and your spirit holistically. And I don't think I hit that point until, probably 10 years ago, where I was genuinely taking care of myself. I think my earlier years were really focused on just fascination with the beyond.
I remember we were talking on the phone, like before, like the pod community knows I talked to everybody before about just to build familiarity, obviously, and like hear the story. But like we were talking about like wellness and like vitality and like what it means to you, the up and down of your journey of like what that started to evolve into. Like what does it mean to you? Like what do you think you were searching for?
A will to live. I think that's what it comes down to. And honestly, that's why I think Shaolin monks talk about this a lot. That's what their training is surrounding. It's like they walk the path of suffering to practice willpower, which is the will to live. And I think it all comes down to that. When I think of like what we're doing on a daily basis and kind of a gut check, it's like, does this make me feel more alive or does this make me feel more dead inside?
Yeah.
So I'm always looking for like, how do I boost my aliveness here? And how do I, actively choose to live and show myself that I want to be alive? Because I really struggled with suicidal ideation for so long. Like, I don't think I would be here without my family, like truly. Like, and I think that's why community is so important, because I would never hurt myself because I love my family too much. So there's something about that, but I don't, and I want to also hold space. I talk a lot about getting off prescription medication, but I also think that like there is place for medicine in the world. And so I don't want to just say to anybody listening to this, like, oh yeah, get off medication. Like, consider
it's just your story.
Yeah, this is my story, and I do believe anything's possible. I believe rapid healing's possible. I think anyone can get off medication, and I know a lot of people want to do that, but I also accept it. If like that's where you're at, like that's okay. And I think I probably needed it at the time. But
I also am like very thankful for like the therapist I started seeing when I did, like, and it wasn't like intentional that I like picked someone that wasn't like the medication route, but I'm so thankful that it wasn't, because for my story too, like I was so sick, I was so clinically depressed, I was so anxious, I was so suicidal, and all of it was just an unalignment with my conscience. Like it was obvious, like through the trauma I had experienced, through like the negative self-talk, the compilation of the childhood trauma, it just like kept building. And as I like started practicing the things we've talked about, rewiring our thoughts, like aligning with our true self, like pursuing peace, that stuff started fading away a little bit. Like I'm not like miraculously healed, but like I don't identify anymore with like the depression and anxiety. I definitely don't feel suicidal anymore, because I think to your point, like when you pursue these types of things, you do start finding purpose and will to live.
I love what you said too about like peace being the end goal there. For me, it's not even like so much like euphoria and supercharged happiness. Like that's wonderful, that comes naturally, but I think peace is exactly what we're going for, like this knowing that everything's going to be okay. And I also like what you said about releasing identities around being an anxious person and being a depressed person. So the way that I look at it now is like I kind of call it emotional storms when they come, because I still have moments, especially when I hit like luteal phase, for example, which is why for women it's so important to understand our cycles too. But I literally have it in my calendar because I'm in it starting like today. Like, okay, everyone chill. Like it's on my phone background. I'm like, you're in luteal. If you get super anxious right now or you start to freak out or spiral, it's okay. Just know that this is where you're at. So,
I don't think I realized I was trying to pursue peace either. The entire time I was just chasing all of these things and trying to like feel better. And I think like doing all of these things, pursuing my own growth, like really getting real with myself and then feeling peace, I realized the entire time like, oh fuck, like I've just been wanting to feel peace, because happiness is relative. That's going to ebb and flow. But peace, I can at least like choose to like do the things that are going to bring me that. And to me, like that's true happiness. For you, like what do you think got you to a place of peace where you were like, okay, I mean, not to be morbid, but like I have a will to live now.
Yeah. When you start to create it on purpose, you realize that you have a choice. So you get out of that victimhood. You get out of that mentality that life is out to get you and that life is there to hurt you and that life has to be this constant struggle. So that really came through my meditation practice, where I started to access those points of peace. And I realized like, oh, if I just sit still for a little while, if I can just let my thinking mind go through the washing machine, if you will, I will reach this sensation of peace that I can actually tap into at any given moment. So just knowing that that's always accessible to us. And that's a discipline. So that's why the daily practice matters. And I have to work on that, and I get to work on that every single day to come back to that, so that my monkey mind doesn't like run away and take control. Because the way that I think about it, we have 3 different kinds of intelligences going on. We have our mental intelligence, our bodily somatic intelligence, and then our spiritual conscious intelligence. So I'm constantly trying to stay in touch with my consciousness and that intelligence. But the human condition constantly pulls us into the logical thinking mind. And I think that's what we're here to transcend in a lifetime.
Yeah. And you talk about it in the sense of like how we almost villainize our pain. Can you get into that a little bit? Because I do think it's this state of almost like victimhood, because that's what I was doing. I think that I was keeping myself in a victim space.
People probably are familiar with this term that your triggers are your teachers. So when I have a difficult emotion arise, or a denser emotion, I try not to label that emotion as bad or good. It's just either denser or lighter. So when it comes in, when I feel this sense of suffering, Byron Katie has this practice, and I don't know what she would even call it, but it's basically after everything you say, and I love that, and I love that. So it's like something will come in and be like, oh my God, I feel like so insecure today, or like I don't like how I look in the mirror, and I love that. Or I feel super depressed today, and I love that. I was wounded as a child, and I love that. And so when we say I love that, it's not about bypassing it. It's not about kind of love as like an energy. It's more love as a verb. It's like you're taking accountability and you're taking action toward breathing love into that. It's more of like unconditional compassion. So I'm feeling depressed today, and I love that. I'm going to love and nourish that part of me that feels scared. And what part of that is fragmented and is scared, and can I sit with that?
Yeah, and I think it allows you to, like, when you start to think about it this way too, and you actually just take a second instead of like feeling what's popping up, and ask yourself the question of like, why? Like, this is interesting, not like reacting from a place of our feelings and emotions and villainizing the pain, but almost just being like, what is going on? Like, why is this popping up? And like, I know you talk a lot about this, like letting it be our teacher. I have learned so much about myself and the things that I need to rewrite just from taking a moment to pause and be like, why the fuck is this popping up? Or like, why am I depressed today? Or why is this like wound popping up in this way? And instead of like pouting about it or reacting without thinking, I can be like, okay, I need to like investigate this more so that I can like sit and kind of, I don't know, allow myself to feel it but move forward.
Yeah, I love that. I think curiosity is maybe the most important trait that we could nurture on a daily basis. And
not enough people do it.
No,
people say it, but they don't do it.
Yeah, well, it's scary, you know, to look in the mirror and be like, whoa, what am I sitting in front of? And that's what plant medicine really helped me with. But a healing path is extremely brave and courageous. So anyone even listening or watching this right now, like, I just give so much credit to, because to walk this path takes a lot of courage and a lot of stretching and a lot of patience, because it can be frustrating to be like, well, I've been doing this work for years. Why do I still feel like this? So having that acceptance of it.
And I think one of the hardest, and I'm sure you've hit this too, like where you're like, I can't believe this just continues on forever. But I'm trying to get better at like looking at it as like a privilege instead of it as this like daunting, awful thing that I have to do.
Totally. And you know what, as you say this, I think one of the most profound realizations I've had over the last year is that my nervous system has been regulated to panic. I've just been so used to stress and panic and feeling like the world is going to end, and very extreme thinking, kind of disaster prophesizing, as I like to say, that it started to become my bubble of safety. Like if I'm not always on edge, like, whoa, then I'm in the unknown, and like I'm not used to feeling safe all the time. So I actively remind myself every day that it's okay to be regulated to safety and regulated to prosperity and regulated to well-being. Like, it can be that good. So when I throw around the phrase, I'm creating heaven on earth, that's what I mean. It's a conscious practice to create regulation to heaven on earth, if you will.
Yeah, that's so powerful. Okay, going back to your story. So you're practicing meditation, you're really diving into your healing, and you're working at this studio in New York. How did you get from there into like now coaching, working with women?
Yeah, thank you for bringing it back on track.
No, I love it.
So I think it was right before the pandemic hit, and I went through another breakup around that time with my wonderful ex-boyfriend, who I just love dearly still. But I decided, okay, I've got this, time frame where anything is possible. Like, we don't know if this, I remember, like, we thought the National Guard was going to come in. No one knew what was going to happen at that time. So I was like, okay, I think I'll just go home to Maine, recoup for a month, move my stuff out of his place, and then when I was home, I was like, okay, the world is my oyster. I've always wanted to take a long road trip out to California. So at that time, I'd also been doing Lacey Phillips' 2-Big Magnetic program, it's all about manifestation, rewiring your neural pathways and everything. She's awesome. And I knew she was out in Topanga, and I got very curious about that area of California because I didn't want to be in the city. I just wanted to check it out, see the scene, but mostly I wanted to take a road trip and do some solo travel and just heal and reintegrate and get out into nature, basically. So I bought a car, hit the road, got out there, fell in love with Topanga, and just stayed for 2 years.
Wow. People say it's a magical place. Like my breathwork coach that I'll do sessions with, she also does Reiki, lives in Topanga, and she's like, it's just amazing here.
I fell in love with that place. I think I'd probably still be there. Another story, I had just a whole thing go down in Topanga. I had a stalker situation get really intense. The FBI got involved. I had to leave. Anyways.
No. That's so insane.
Crazy. Yeah, crazy. But I love Topanga. I'm still looking for a place that feels like that, like on the East Coast.
Yeah.
But I also started to meet my expanders out there. I started to meet women who were also doing mentorship and breath work and all of this stuff. And I wasn't meeting those people in New York City. New York City was just starting to get into yoga here.
Yeah.
We were behind LA in that sense. So I started to realize that I could really build something more tangible. And I'd also been doing the podcast for a few years up until then, just trying to learn from people and be a student as much as possible.
Yeah.
So around 2022, I think, 2021 maybe, I launched my first course called Radiate Confidence, which was an email course, and it had
so cool.
EFT tapping in it and hypnosis and journaling, and lessons would get delivered automatically every week to people. And I said, okay, well, I'd really like to work with people one-on-one. So I started to open up one-on-one, and then it just started to expand and kept expanding, and I'm still kind of doing that to this day. And then I started my membership called the Lifted Club.
Congrats, that's awesome.
Thank you so much.
And similar to me, I feel like you're probably just very proud to do something that reflects so much of your own healing and pursuit of happiness. And I know that you work with a lot of creatives as well, right?
Yeah, I really zone in on creative people and visionaries and people that want to get into leadership. I just feel really strongly that art is going to save the world, and we need artists right now. And I feel like especially right now, a renaissance is coming. We're experiencing a collective upheaval and a collective grief, I think, in a lot of ways. A lot of people feel scared for one reason or the other, or ostracized, or just we're entering the unknown together. And this is where some of the best art comes out. And I have one client who's a creative director, and she's a brilliant photographer, and just knowing the only thing holding her back is her fear of being seen or fear of success. And I'm like, look at what the world gets to get from your gift. It's literally a gift that you're going to share with us. The storytelling that you do, the work, the art that you share with the world is so needed. It gives me chills even thinking about. So to be able to help someone get out of their own way and love themselves enough to allow themselves to share that gift, and then watch that ripple effect happen as people consume that work and heal because of them and the beauty that they put out there, is really an honor to do that. And I really don't do anything. It's really about asking the right questions with my clients so that they realize that they are their own guru. I'm not some ascended master. I'm still working on myself every day, but I do have an ability to pull out someone's power, which I think is great.
I love that. I love that so much. What would you say is one of those questions, especially with creatives? Because I know you focus with working with creatives and the creative breakthrough. Yeah. What is one thing you feel always pops up that you feel stands in the way of people executing or starting the business or pursuing their art and passion?
It's so simple. It's just, what are you afraid of? Because it's always two kinds of thoughts happening. It's either stressful or non-stressful. It's either love or fear. So what are you so afraid of in this moment? Someone, might just say, well, I'm afraid of being seen. But then there are a lot of layers to that. Who exactly are you afraid of being seen by? Usually it narrows down to one person. One person that, was in their friend group or something, and who's going to judge them. And we need to get really clear on who that is. And as soon as they can clear the fear around that person, they're suddenly freed. But we don't know what we don't know. So first it's label the fear and then track it down with why, until we hit the core of the issue of oh, okay, well, this happened with my family got divorced, and then this person came in, and I'm scared of them, and if they see me, I'm unsafe on the internet or something like that. Or we dig up some things.
Totally. I think it's interesting because we get very caught up in like what people think of us, or like if they're gonna judge us. It's interesting because I feel like no one actually like cares so much about us. Like we care the most about us. To your point, they don't look at it as like you're sharing your gift with the world and making it a better place. So I think it's about like putting mission first instead of like yourself and your perception of yourself.
100%, right. Being of service, like remembering your why, instead of focusing my content from that perspective on like, look at me. Like it was like, are someone gonna like save this and use this and come back to it later? Or in the comments I always look for is like, thank you, this like changed my life today or something. And not in a selfish way or whatever. It does help me when they say that, but that means that it made a tangible difference in their life and it's helpful for them. It's not, it's not frivolous kind of stuff.
I always say that I feel like it's an easier way to like get past that imposter syndrome or that fear or whatever. Is like if you're doing it for someone else, or if you can create some type of mission, you're not really thinking about your perception as much. It's not as selfish, but I think our society is just very like me, and it's trained into us. I don't think it's conscious, of course, but
Totally. Someone asked me the other day, they were like, isn't it scary like showing up and posting to followers online? I'm like, not at all, because we scroll through like thousands of pieces of content a day. So it's just like, no one cares. Like, can you remember like the stories that you watched yesterday? Not really. Like maybe a few. And if you do, it probably stuck out to you in a way that was like, it resonated with you or is helpful for you. So it's just like when I zoom out and realize like the rate of consumption going on, and just if I can just add a little bit of a glimmer of hope into somebody's life, or a little piece of beauty or a piece of wisdom or something that someone's going to take with them, wonderful. But I don't take it too seriously. It's not like, oh my God, my video blows up and like everyone cares. It's like, no, like that reached wonderful. Like I try to not make anything too big of a deal while also celebrating at the same time. I try to make sure I'm like grateful and have moments of like, this is really cool, but also like it's not a big deal.
Well, I think if there's like any chance that I can create like hope in someone, because to me like finding again like peace, but also like believing that there's hope is like a huge root of actually like being happy and finding happiness. You did a post about how it was someone talking about how like happiness is our birthright.
Oh yeah.
And it was super deep for me, because I was like, that is something I feel like it is so obvious that I like have never really believed for myself. And I'm sure like the way like we grew up and like the struggles we had with the depression and anxiety, you really don't believe that you can ever like be happy or be at peace. And I would be lying if I said that I still don't struggle with that sometimes, where I feel like I had to fight for love and fight for happiness for so long. It doesn't feel like a birthright sometimes. Like how do you, or at least in your own story and then with your clients, like how do you remind people of that?
This is a lot of inner child healing that needs to happen, because I think a lot of us grew up believing that we had to earn love and be a good girl in a lot of ways. And my mom actually just reminded me of like something I used to do as a kid. Like she'd be like, I would drop you off at preschool and you would be such a good girl, and you would like, all the teachers would say so good, and then you would get in the car and you would throw a tantrum and you kicked the car so hard that you broke the dashboard. Like she was like, you would go into a fit of rage because you'd been so bottled up trying to be a good girl all day that you just unleashed when you got out. You're so upset and angry that you couldn't really express yourself. But there must have been something in me that was like, you need to be a good girl and be quiet and like do these things. So this belief, then goes into adulthood of like compression and how we perform to receive love, and being pretty enough, being thin enough, or whatever body type you idolize or whatever. That was always that for me. And so it's really stripping back, like where did all that conditioning come from? Is it helping me or harming me? And do I need to earn my happiness, and is that a thing? And I think what's been really helpful for me is to get out in nature again, or to be around art and beauty, because art in a way kind of feels natural to me because it's coming from humans, and we forget that we're natural organic beings. Like we're like animals, and how incredible is it that we can create art and make music? There's just something so divine and magical around that. So the experience of feeling awe around art and nature at the same time mean a lot to me. And when I'm in those spaces, I remember like I'm kind of like a little animal, like I'm a little human. Like, does a dog, have to beg for like dogs are just happy. And I think that's why it's really healing to be around animals, because dogs just kind of exist and they're happy to play with a ball. And it's like,
they trust the process. I think that a lot of our happiness is stripped away when we feel like we have to earn it. And then I think we bonded over this too, where it's like you do something or you're in a really good place. And at least for a while, I've gotten really much better at living in the present. But I think like it was always like I can't even sit in my happiness because I'm waiting for the shoe to drop or something to go wrong. And I'm not even trusting that it's going to stay. And of course I was conditioned based on like my experience, but it's about like shifting your belief system, shifting your mindset so that you can actually have a chance at like getting more evidence to prove otherwise.
It's interesting. I was just thinking about this yesterday, like superstition, being afraid that something's going to get ripped out from under me or something, because I'm starting to hit these upper limits and expansive moments. And I'm like, don't talk about this. Like, you know, I'm sensing the charge around it and a little bit of fear coming up sometimes. And I realize that I only get superstitious or I only worry if the other shoe's going to drop if I'm not feeling confident or if I'm feeling insecure, because that means I just don't trust myself to handle anything. So I really encourage people to look at your past. You've overcome everything up until this moment and you're okay right here, right now. You're thriving. Like you and I are sitting in this gorgeous studio together having this conversation. What a blessing. Like this is heaven on earth to me. Like I'm in my purpose. So nothing else matters except for the present moment. So your past is evidence that you've made it through everything. And the only thing that we're afraid of is a feeling. It's never the actual event of the other shoe dropping. It's how we're going to feel when that happens. So this is why emotional mastery or self-mastery and working on our self-esteem is, I think, the most important thing we can work on. Because when I think of quantum healing, basically I think about when a dense emotion hits us and we're overcome with like either grief or panic or scarcity or fear, it's shortening the process of that suffering. So what a lot of people tend to do is they feel this denser emotion and then they suffer with it sometimes for weeks or years. They go into a depressive episode. So I think the work is to catch it as it comes in and alchemize it and say, okay, even though I feel really scared right now, I still love, honor, and accept myself. Do your EFT tapping, okay? And then you start to alchemize that. And so it's really like how quickly can you turn over the suffering, basically, while also giving yourself permission to feel it and heal it at the same time, not bypassing it. I think there's a nuance there, like to actually feel it, sit with it, alchemize it on a chemical level in your body, be like, it's okay, I'm feeling this, and I trust myself to hold this emotion. I always refer to the Guest House poem by Rumi of welcoming those denser emotions to sit at the table like a guest in the guest house.
That's so good.
Right? You invite them, you entertain them, you listen to them, you give them the respect that they need, you give them a warm meal in a home. And then there's a time when they're ready to leave. Like you don't overstay your welcome as a guest, right?
Yeah.
So I think about that.
Like I always say, like remove the charge. Like me and my best friend will be like talking, and she's also like very into like her own healing and like pursuing more. We're very much like committed to the work, you know, and it feels good, to your point, to have community where people around you are doing the same thing. But I'm always like, we'll catch each other and be like, just remove the charge a little bit. Like you're sitting in it too much. Or for me, and I've really tried to work on this, like something bad will happen or like I'll be hurt. Something goes wrong. I get rejected, whatever it is. And I sit in more so like the future of what it means and let myself like spiral instead of just allowing myself to like feel it and grieve it. Like I almost like try to disassociate from the feeling, and I'm like, okay, well, now that this has happened, what does this mean? What does this mean about this person? Can I trust them? Or like I got rejected, like what does it mean for my business? Whatever it is. And I'm trying to get better just being like, you don't have to know, like why don't you just like be sad for a second? And I've found that like when I do that, it's not as intense. Like the charge naturally becomes a little more removed, and I'm not like thinking about all the things that are going to go wrong in my life, you know, because of this thing. It's not as serious.
Yeah. All right, take it to the worst case scenario. Get really familiar with what that worst case scenario is. Take it all the way to the edge. So you get rejected. Like what happens when you get rejected? Like the world explodes around you. Apparently you're not good enough for that person. And then the question is, well, why would that be so bad?
Yeah.
Why would that be so bad? And that reveals what you believe about yourself. And then you can start to work on that of, okay, well, I'm only valuable if I'm smart enough to them or something. And then we go into like, well, is that true? Is that like factual? Is there evidence to support that you're not smart enough? How much do you really care about that person's opinion? Then we can start to break it down. But it's getting familiar with your deepest fear. And then like actually kind of being like, okay, well, if this happened, I could handle it. I could trust myself to do that. And is what I'm afraid of evidence-backed? Is it rational, or is it just my brain spiraling? Because it's just trying to keep you safe. Like you probably go into like a fear of rejection because you're trying to prepare yourself for like what could happen.
Totally.
It's so natural, so human. So there is a lot of surrender in this, but also just like, this is why I love the CBT framework. It's like the first question is like, is it true? Is it true? Like, question it, because I think we often just believe that whatever thought we're having is true.
Yeah.
We just believe our thoughts. Half of our thoughts aren't true.
The biggest change I saw in my life, like from depression, like clinically depressed and suicidal to being able to like thrive and live and feel peace, was realizing that I can't trust my thoughts whatsoever. Yeah. Like, they're just not real. They still aren't. I'm like gotten really, really good at just being like, yep, no idea who that is in my head.
Right. You can give them a name, like mastering your inner mean girl.
Yeah. I'm like, I have no idea. That person is mentally ill. Like, it's just, I gotta do something different.
And
like,
I do think it gets easier though. So to your point of like doing your affirmations, like people might brush over that and be like, affirmations don't work. They do work because the subconscious loves repetition.
Totally.
So your impulsive thoughts will start to change over time. Instead of that impulsivity coming in of like, you know, whatever self-limiting belief, your impulse starts to change into, oh, I feel really good today or something.
Yeah.
And you'll start to notice those impulsivities change.
It's not easy. It just gets easier. It does. And I think that, you know, the healing journey never stops, and it's like breakthrough after breakthrough after breakthrough. I don't know if you remember that clip of Kylie Jenner being like, this was the year of realizing things. And everybody kept making fun of her. And I was just like, I kind of get it. She's just like realizing and realizing and realizing. And I feel like that's what it is. Like, you have to, I don't know, there's audacity involved in being able to continue to like pursue more and continue to like get these realizations and have to shift and have to change. I think sometimes people really get like stagnant and they don't know how to get to a place where they can have a breakthrough. And I know that's your specialty. Like, how can you continue to push yourself to have like breakthroughs and look in the mirror and ask the hard questions?
Totally. Well, I call it the lifted method. I've been kind of testing this of like, what's the method that actually works to get results for myself and for my clients? And it's basically a 7-part process. I will say, before I give you the breakdown of the lifted method though, you know, I think that's what we sign up for as ambitious people. If you're an ambitious person, you're constantly going to be pushing past your threshold. You get excited by it. It's like an athlete, you know, we push our upper limit. So it's like the cost reward system of it. And to not villainize like the challenge of that, it's what we sign up for. You could live, you know, on a little farm somewhere and never do anything challenging with your life, and that would be a beautiful life. That's okay. You're allowed to do that. But I think people like you and I, we really like a good challenge. And so that's what we sign up for. And it's a spiritual journey to enter this. So that's what it is. So the lifted method is basically 7 parts. It's very simple. You know, I think all of the most potent change is quite simple. It's just about getting into alignment with these simple
but hard
pillars. Exactly. So the first part is really, number 1, understanding your subconscious patterning. So studying yourself, that means reading a lot. That means choosing mentors or therapists or people that you look up to, like mine is Ram Dass and David White, I really have learned a lot from. So choosing your teachers, people that you can study under basically and become kind of an apprentice to your own self. Number 2 is starting to actually heal that core wounding. So once you know, okay, these are my blocks, then you can start to heal it once you actually have awareness around it. And that's where CBT, EFT, hypnosis comes in. Number 3 is setting a challenge. It's setting a goal. It's choosing something difficult to do, because this is how you really start to build confidence, like having that evidence that like, ooh, I have integrity. I can do what I say I'm going to do. That can look as simple as I want to wake up in 15 minutes earlier every day or an hour earlier every day.
Yeah.
And I like to have like a 7 to 8 week framework to get that challenge done, because it puts a healthy amount of pressure on you. That can be like running a 10K or getting out of debt or something like that. So choosing a really specific challenge and setting a SMART goal, like there's a SMART goal framework that you guys can look up if you're not familiar with it, but really important. Number 4 is getting around community and people that inspire you and expanders. So making sure that the people we're surrounding ourselves with are really bringing us closer to vitality and aliveness. I've had a really kind of intense last couple of years of being really conscious and using discernment around who's going to be in my close inner circle for the long run, because we pick up on each other's thoughts and energies and we spill into each other, and that can be a blessing or it can be a burden. And so healthy boundaries.
I didn't realize how important this piece was. I think it's like, when, to your point, like when you're like such an achiever and like very ambitious, like you don't like lean on people as much or realize how much your community actually like impacts you. And I recently like started hanging out with this couple, they really showed me like, oh my God, like I feel so alive and uplifted and positive after I leave hanging out with you. Why have I not felt this for the last year with everybody else that I'm hanging out with? So I've had to do the same thing where it's like you almost have to like audit like your time and where you're spending it. And it doesn't mean you have to like unfriend everybody, but I think like focusing more time around the people that actually make you feel good and who are also like aligned with your goals is so understated.
100%. Yep. I love it. And it doesn't have to be so cutthroat. Like that's been something I've been learning too, is to not like make enemies, but be comfortable with creating more spaciousness between connections that feel like a hindrance, or being okay with, you know, softly exiting or something like that, or like not pursuing relationships that don't serve me anymore. If I'm surrounded by people who are deeply insecure, they can't help but to start to tear me down, for example, and I notice I'll do that by accident to other people if I feel insecure. So it's being just hyper aware of like what projections are coming into me right now. Does it make me doubt myself? And anyways, just to your point, it's so important. Number 5 is like reigniting your creativity of the lifted method. Creativity, creating art in whatever way feels authentic to you, whether it's writing poetry, doing photography, doing your makeup, getting dressed. Like your style, your fashion is artistic. Like it's beautiful. You're channeling into your choices with your clothing, and that feels artistic when I look at it. So looking at creativity as an act of devotion.
No, I love this. I think it's so good because for me, I've been obsessed with blazers forever. Not loving it as much right now because it is burning hot under these lights. But I've always been obsessed with blazers, and I think at first though it started with a need to like hide my body. Like I was like felt overweight. I've always been, like we talked about, like very hyper fixated on the way I look and the way my body's presented. So I feel like wearing the oversized blazer was a way to like kind of hide underneath and not have to like look and see. And then just like through healing and kind of stepping more into a place of like empowerment and confidence and like trying to work on the way I perceive myself, it's now turned into this like symbol of the strength of my journey. Not to be cheesy, but it's just the truth. And so now I do feel like the pain kind of turned into this like empowerment through style, and I didn't even realize it was happening, and it kind of just subconsciously unfolded in that way.
Absolutely. One of the, I don't know if you follow her on TikTok, styling with Ken's or something, I'm not sure, but she shows the transformations that happen with the clients that she's styling, and you can see their energy completely change when they wear clothes that are tailored and fit them and their colors are right. Like I'm watching a spiritual journey unfold, like as they experience clothing and beauty, and you're wearing art when you choose your clothes and you're saying something. Number 6 is connecting with your intuition and spirit, which comes through meditation practices. The thing with a meditation practice, which I kind of mentioned earlier, is that you want to get to that place of peace where you're receptive. So we hear a lot of people say, you know, everything that you want is within you. Everything you need is within you. You like are your own healer, but that's sometimes hard to understand. But the way that I perceive it is it's more about becoming a channel to receive a higher intelligence, because when you really sit in a deep meditation practice, you'll start to get past the thinking mind. Your brain kind of goes through the washing machine. Like you just kind of get rid of everything going on through the day. And then you hit a point of, there's nothing really else to think about. Let me just sit here. And then you start to receive. You start to get ideas that come out of nowhere. We sometimes feel this in the shower. We sometimes feel this before we go to sleep at night when we're in a place of total relaxation. The day is done. We've done enough thinking. And that's where we receive really brilliant ideas. So when I'm really on it and I remember, meditation is the most important thing I could possibly be doing. And I just need to remember that daily.
Well, and you're like creating space to like be real with yourself a little bit as well. Like I think people spend so much time go, and I'm guilty of this as well. But I think that you spend your time going go, distraction, drink, eat, hang out, that like you don't have to like be with yourself. Meditation doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm sitting on a pillow. It can be like with yourself, not distracting yourself, just seeing what comes up so that you can listen, take it, whether it's for your business, a creative idea, or like some type of trigger or trauma popping up and be like, okay, I'm going to get curious. Why the hell is this popping up for me right now? But again, it takes courage.
It does. And you'll realize that it's okay as you sit with it. And you also start to get intimate and familiar with your somatic experience. So I try to focus on like when I feel this denser emotion, where is it landing in the body? That's a really big part of the framework as well, is like, okay, feel tight in my chest. Okay, let me breathe into the heart space. That's the heart chakra. So then you can actually get deeper into heart chakra healing. Or I might feel it in my lower belly. That's the sacral chakra. Okay, let me figure out what's creatively blocking me in the sacral chakra. So there's so many compartments to this, but having that connection with spirit, having that as a practice is just so important to facilitating a breakthrough. And then the final one is reflecting and refining. So I do this every Sunday. I call it the Sunday audit, which is also on my blog on my website, so people can just copy paste that framework. But it's kind of like a rosebud thorn practice, if you guys have ever tried that before. It's like you just reflect on what went really well, what do you want to improve upon, and then I like to also reflect on just the wins from every part of life, like fitness, friendships, relationships, family, business, clients, whatever. Everything that went well, like rampage of gratitude, basically. And then the final part of that is reinstating the big vision for the year. So focusing, getting clear, like what is my big mission for this year? What am I super focused on? Because I think what holds a lot of people back is we just get fragmented. We forget what we're doing and we forget our mission and our why. So mine has really just been super hyper focused on building my membership and community. So before I start to take on all these other projects, every week I'm like, what is my why? Where am I going? Why is this important? Building community. Okay, lock in. So it's really helpful.
Well, we tend to only remember the bad stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't remember all the good that happened. So I think forcing yourself to like sit and actually identify, like, I already know what bad happened this week. Like, what actually was all the good? I think it's a damn long list if you actually like write it out. And,
it is.
I forget too. Like, I'll be like, oh my God, so much good happened, and all I can think about is the bad. Like, I think it's normal, but I think like nothing about like pursuing more and healing and changing your thoughts feels normal. You have to kind of choose it. It becomes a discipline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, we're just trying to problem solve when we're looking at what went wrong. So it's okay. It's like, there's nothing wrong or bad about that. But yeah, it's a muscle to flex. I have an ongoing note in my notes app. It's just my wins list that I try to update every single night. Of just like, everything, all these from like, oh my God, I loved my coffee this morning. I made it perfectly too. I got to do this wonderful podcast today too. It was a beautiful day. I felt good in my skin today. It wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold. Like simple things, like little pieces of gratitude. And then you start to have this cognitive bias, which allows you to look for that. So then you step out the door the next morning and you're like, I live in heaven on earth instead of the world's crumbling around me. It's a practice.
Before I let you go, what would you say to someone listening who was maybe in our shoes right now, is listening, they're trying to pursue peace or find happiness, but they are depressed, they're anxious, they're dealing with some trauma? What would your tip or just, I guess, affirmation to them be?
I would really start EFT tapping, whether it's with me or somebody else. Like, it will change your life. It just gives you, it's a safe space for you to feel into what's going on. I think the affirmation is, I'm safe to change. I'm willing to change. I think change is what people are most afraid of. Like we were talking about earlier, regulation to panic can be so normal for us. So I'm willing to change is one of the most powerful affirmations I've integrated.
That's so good. Mm-hmm. That's so good. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for coming on and for your time. I ask everybody who comes on the podcast, like, looking back on your own healing journey, now your business, there's so much more to come, but looking back, how do you see it?
Oh my God. I just had a moment this morning. I was just on my roof having a little coffee. I was like, holy shit. Like, this year's been a big quantum leap for me in a lot of ways. Like, I've started to do retreats more, and I'm planning more retreats for our community coming up. And things are just starting to happen. Like, my vision board has come off the board. And so I just feel a real sense of gratitude, and trusting the timing of life, I think, has been really important. I always want things to go faster. You know, I'm like, why isn't it here yet? I'm behind. Oh, It's just like, that's my unblocking to do. So I'm just feeling really grateful today, and feeling like I'm right on time. And so I would hope that everybody else can reflect and feel the same today as they're listening to this. It's like, you're right on time. You're not behind. And when we do look back in hindsight, we realize everything had to happen in that order and in that time frame. I just had a moment today, a breakthrough today, that is going to affect my summer. And I'm just like, whoa, this is why everything else had to take a little while, because this had to come through, and this is going to change my life.
Yeah. So, no, it's so good. I love how you started the pod and you were like, you were talking about your depression and anxiety, and you're like, but I'm so happy it happened. And I think that's how I am too now. Like, I spent the last few years kind of still resenting everything that had happened to me. And I think I'm finally at a place where, like, I'm sitting here with you and I'm in New York recording and like making an impact. And I'm like, no, I know why it happened. And I think I can accept that and actually be, I don't want to say grateful, but grateful that like my life is unfolding the way it's supposed to. But
is.
I appreciate your time and vulnerability.
So
Please share with everyone listening where they can find you on Instagram, the program. I'll put it in the show notes too. But
thank you, Hannah. I'm so grateful to sat with you, and I'm just so impressed by your journey, and you're just amazing. You're an amazing creative. So you can find me at Helen Denham _ on Instagram, and helendenham.com is my website. And then I'm just kind of inviting everybody into the Lifted Club, which is my Patreon membership.
Love.
I do new moon and full moon workshops. We do EFT tapping. We do guided hypnosis. There's a whole library in there of all these EFT classes. So it's fantastic for developing a daily practice. There's a whole tab just for the daily practice. So you can dive in. You can get a free trial just to see if it helps you. And then I have the Lifted podcast. So that's my little world.
Yay. I'll put everything in the show notes, but thank you so much.
Yay. Thank you for having me, Hannah. It was so nice.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I hope you leave here feeling motivated and inspired. Do not forget to rate and review the pod on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and don't forget to follow How I See It Pod so you can keep up with podcast updates and see who's coming on next. And if you're not already, come join the fam and follow at How Han Sees It. Thank you guys.